you so much for doing this.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Of course. Our podcast is about your journey in music and how you got to where you are now.
Awesome. That's
Very cool.
good.
Awesome. And we'll talk about the new record, of course, as
Okay.
well. So,
Yeah.
cool. Why don't you tell me first where you were born and raised?
I was born and raised in Fort Lauderdale, Florida.
Okay.
Um, yeah, a little left field there, but I left the house. I left like Florida when I was 18, but yeah, I grew up like snorkeling and scuba diving and I'm thinking fondly of Florida today as we've had like ice pellets falling from the sky in Nashville.
I heard. I'm actually my wife or my family, my wife and my two kids were moving there on Sunday. So we
Oh
have to
my gosh.
drive. We're driving from San Diego, and we're like so worried about this black ice and all the other stuff that's happening out there. So
Yeah.
we've had to change our route about 9 times, and we're going to take the 10, and we're going to take the 40, and now we're going to go back to the 10. So
Oh
I'm
my gosh, I can't
fingers
imagine 'cause it's
crossed
the whole,
it starts
yeah.
to clear up. But
It's like the whole country, like Texas is like there's snow in
iced
Texas.
over, yeah.
Oh my gosh. I don't know how to drive. I lived in Boston and DC, but I didn't really drive in Boston and I did drive a little bit in DC, but like everything closes down in DC when there's snow. And
Mhm.
same with Nashville. So I don't know how to drive in this stuff. So I'm just like,
Oh my
I
gosh.
hope I
So it's
don't have to leave.
they shut down the roads and stuff when it gets that bad out there.
They don't really shut down the roads, but they shut down like all offices and schools and
Oh,
like,
okay.
yeah, because they don't really like they have salt on the major roads, but
Mhm.
my neighborhood is so sketchy because they just don't come back here and salt
Oh,
the roads.
salt
So
the roads. Oh my gosh.
we just have like so many stop signs and it's hard to stop.
Right, I was gonna say stop signs, then your car probably won't stop on the ice.
Yeah,
Oh
yeah.
my gosh.
But
Yeah.
anyways, I'm from Florida and I miss it.
Right. Yeah, no, we're in San Diego, but it's cold here. I mean, it's like in the 40s today, which is bizarre for
Wow.
California weather, but
Yeah, that is
anyway.
really cool.
So Fort Lauderdale, that's and I did read that you're from like a musical family too. Um
Yes.
so was your mom the composer or tell me about coming from a musical family.
Yeah, my mom is actually a classical conductor.
Okay.
She's retired now, but she was a classical conductor for years. At first, she studied piano and then organ, went to school for organ, and then she was a choir director, and then she was the conductor for a bunch of youth orchestras, and then started her own symphony orchestra. And so she got her doctorate's degree in conducting and like she's the real deal.
Wow.
But yeah, she was kind of like burnt out after doing it. She misses it sometimes, I know, but she was just so many years of it's really hard work to have your own symphony orchestra. Like no classical music, there's not a lot of funding and there's just it's
Mhm.
notorious for there's been so many symphonies that have had to close. So, but yeah, my brother and I grew up playing piano and then my mom wanted us to play string instruments, so we did that, and that's kind of how it all began.
Wow. So was your
Yeah.
mom like doing this in Fort Lauderdale? It doesn't seem like
Yeah.
the spot. I mean, maybe it is. I don't know much about it.
Well, I mean, not really. Yeah, there are a great deal of amazing orchestras down there. There's New World Symphony Orchestra, which is a pretty like famous
Yeah,
orchestra.
I know the name.
Yeah, and then the Miami City Ballet is a really big orchestra. But we had the Florida Philharmonic when I was growing up. But then I think when I was in high school, they had to close because they just didn't have
Didn't
enough
have
money.
money.
So that was another orchestra. But yeah, it's kind of a strange place to, I guess, like you don't really think of like Florida being I guess you think of like Latin American music and
Mhm.
like techno and all the
Sure.
fun,
Yeah.
that fun stuff. But
Yeah, not really the classical realm of things. I
yeah,
don't really think of when I think
yeah,
of there. That's interesting.
right. Yeah. But I mean, there are a lot of older people. And so, I mean, like Yeah, statistically, like I feel like unfortunately, the symphonies are so expensive to go to. So a lot of older people go to symphony concerts and a
Mm-hmm.
lot of younger people can't, which I think is really a bummer
Mm-hmm.
because it's just such an amazing experience. And I wish it was more affordable for
Yeah.
everybody.
Yeah. It just seems like on cost wise, because there's so many people in, you know, in the orchestras that need it. Everybody needs to get paid. They're not going to show up there for free, I'm sure. So,
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. It's not just like a solo act.
right. Yeah. There's a handful upon handfuls of people there, but
Yes.
wow.
Yeah.
So you grew up going to those, I'm sure.
Yeah, going to them, playing in them. I started playing in my mom's orchestra when I was in high school. And then
Wow.
I also had a professional job playing viola for this. There was a symphony orchestra that was attached to a college and they needed more violists at the
Hmm.
time. So my senior year, I was playing professionally in that orchestra. But yeah, man, I did all of the classical stuff, like orchestra camp, all of the competitions, and
Hmm.
it was a lot.
It was a lot. And okay, so was piano the first instrument you learned and then you went to viola?
Piano, then violin, then viola. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Very
Yeah.
cool. And you were in the school orchestra, I'm imagining, through what,
Yeah.
elementary school and middle school and high school?
Yep.
Okay.
All of it.
Was it all that, or when did the songwriting kind of come into your life?
The songwriting didn't really start until much later. I went to a conservatory for my first school after high school, and it was this really intense program where I was like practicing like 8 hours a day, and I just got super burnt out. And I, at that point, when I was graduating from high school, I thought I would be a classical musician still. So I
Mhm.
tried that for a while. And then while I was at that conservatory, I started like messing around with a little songwriting, and I would like play and sing playing viola because
Mhm.
I had heard this artist, Annie Rossi, who um, I don't know if you're shaking your head like you're familiar with her. I don't know.
I'm just listening.
Okay. Oh, okay. Okay. Well, I would be so excited if you were, because she's just so cool. And I don't know if she's still doing like the OG, like playing viola and singing thing, but that's really what got me started, was seeing that she could do it
Uh-huh.
and being like, oh, I play viola. Like I didn't really play guitar well at the time. And so that's really how I started. I saw that this was a way of songwriting and performing, and then yeah, while I was at this conservatory, I just kind of started playing little open mic nights, and then I dropped out after that first year because I was like, I'm not meant for this
Uh-huh.
like hardcore classical life. But
Sure. Well,
yeah.
with that, like, because you have to play it up like this, right? I mean, I'm like a violin. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, like, that must have been pretty, you know, different, obviously, for people going and watching these open mic nights. They might have been like, "Whoa, like that's kind of cool." Like, did that kind of draw some attention to you more so than, you know, somebody just up there playing guitar and singing?
Yeah, I think so. I think it was definitely something different. Like you don't really
Mm-hmm.
see that a lot. And I think that's why I was so drawn to her. She was actually, do you know Bin Soli? Have you heard of him?
Mm-mm.
He's a singer, cellist. And
Oh,
so
interesting.
yeah, and he is so talented. And so she was opening up for him. So it's like a really rare thing. Like you think of like Andrew Bird, and really there aren't that many people that that are songwriters that their main instrument is a string instrument. So
Sure.
yeah, it's definitely appealing
Right,
to
right. And so you're writing songs, and everything you're writing as far as your when you're singing was all done on the viola, not on like a
yes.
guitar or a piano. That's interesting.
Yeah, at that point, I started doing more guitar songwriting when I went to Berkeley College of Music for my second go around at college,
Oh, interesting. Okay.
or maybe third. I hopped around a lot, but yeah, at that point, I hadn't even heard of Berkeley when I was growing up. as an option because I was so dense. I was like really deep in the classical world. So music school to me meant like Juilliard, not,
Right. Not
like,
Berkeley.
yeah, but it was such
That's
a cool experience.
yeah. To get into that school though, like I'm sure you still there's like an audition process, correct? Right, for Berkeley.
Mhm.
Did you go in as
Yeah.
a viola player?
Yes, I auditioned as a viola player because one of the reasons I switched to viola when I was in high school is because there just aren't as many violists. So often violinists will switch to viola to get more scholarships and
Oh.
just kind of more opportunities. And if you can play both, it's really it's just really helpful for your career down the line.
Mhm.
So yeah, there were like 7 of us at Berkeley.
Wow. Whoa.
Bunch of weirdos.
What's it, I mean, I don't know personally, but what's like the big difference with it? Because I mean, it looks similar, right? I mean, is it a lot different to play versus a violin?
It's got these really subtle differences that make it a little like do make it challenging. Like you can't to just like switch over. There are like when I was switching over, I had a teacher that specifically taught students switching from violin to viola because there's just like the way you think about your body and like you have to apply more like natural weight with your bow arms so that it
Mm,
pulls the sound out more and just these really weird little differences and the fact that it's just physically larger. It's
right, it's a
a
bigger
little bit,
instrument.
yeah, it's but yeah, it's a deeper sound. It sounds a little bit more like a cello.
Mhm.
It's like a more portable cello.
Sure. Did you ever play cello, or is that just not wasn't the next step up for you as far as like you
No,
didn't want to go to the
I
even bigger one?
so my brother was a cellist and
Oh.
he and I love the cello, but I have borrowed his one. I have one of his cellos here. Because I was like, well, I'll just try this. I actually borrowed it from him at the beginning of COVID,
Mhm.
thinking like now's the time to learn to play cello, but it's a really bad cello and I'm also really bad at the cello. So I quickly stopped that.
Okay. Well, so after Berkeley, what was next for you? Were you songwriting at Berkeley and that kind of took you to, writing and releasing your own music, or what was the next step for you?
Yeah, I kind of hopped around a lot. So at Berkeley, I did songwriting, I did ethnomusicology, which is like the study of world music, kind of
Mhm.
like anthropology, but for music. And I got really into studying, I like studied a lot of Ghanaian music and went to Ghana a couple different times
Oh,
and got really into
wow.
like West African drum and dance and thought I'm going to be an ethnomusicologist. And so after I graduated from Berkeley, I did a hodgepodge of things at Berkeley and I kind of just towards the end was like, well, this is the thing that I'm fascinated with right now and picked that. And
Mhm.
that was ethnomusicology. And so I ended up going to the Smithsonian, they have a record label called Folkways, which
Uh-huh.
has this really big collection of world music. So I started working there and I did that for
Wow.
about a year. Yeah, just really all over.
That is awesome. Was it cool to be in the Smithsonian? I mean, that must have been a cool experience.
It was really cool, but it was also a desk job. So I was like, I wasn't playing. It was a 9 to 5.
Mm.
I really didn't play much until halfway through when I realized that ethnomusicology is a lot more of the like the studious part than the playing and
Uh,
traveling part.
sure.
So yeah, I really enjoyed it. I got to do a lot of really cool research projects and just was exposed to tons of world music that I wouldn't have listened to probably if it weren't for
Mhm.
that job. But halfway through, I told my boss there that I wanted to be playing. And he had gone to UCLA for ethnomusicology
Mm.
and was performing, and he was a pianist. And so he was performing and doing ethnomusicology. But I ended up taking viola lessons again she was the principal violist of the National Symphony Orchestra based, I think in DC or Baltimore, but that area. And so I once again went like hardcore into classical music, and in the hopes of getting a scholarship to a grad program. And so then
Okay.
I ended up going out to UCLA and got a master's degree in viola.
Wow.
And they also had a really cool ethnomusicology program that was more focused in playing and learning. So
Mm-hmm.
performance based education. And I took some Nigerian drum and dance classes, and just, yeah, I think I just have ADD. I like so many things that I've
That's funny.
yeah, I've tried a lot. I've really bounced around, but
Yeah.
I love it. I'm like, I've learned so many things, and now that I've kind of settled on this one thing that I'm doing right now, I'm so grateful for all the experiences of the different facets of the music industry, and or being a musician, and
Mhm.
but yeah, and here I
But
am.
yeah. Well, with your masters and from UCLA, did you start playing in orchestras again? Like from that, what did you do with once you graduated from UCLA?
Songwriting. So I
Oh.
realized, I feel like what's happened is I've every time I've gone really into the classical side of it, I've realized that it's not for me, but I just keep trying it because it's what I've known. And so
Hmm.
that program was really strict classical music again. And I was also a teaching assistant. So I was teaching like chamber music, like string quartets and stuff. And
Hmm.
was just like, whoa, I'm really in it. And halfway through that, I ended up going on a tour with a friend from Berkeley, playing fiddle for him. And they all lived in Nashville, and they were all songwriters, and it was so fun. And I just kind of saw that side of it all, and went to Nashville a bit. And I ended up moving to Nashville in between my 2 years at UCLA, and that was when I recorded a 5-song EP,
Hmm.
and was like, I really want to do this now. And so I went full throttle into songwriting, went back and I finished my degree, but I went back and I also told my boss, who was in charge of the grad program for string players, that like I'd kind of like, graduate degrees are an extension of your education. It's like, once you know what you want and to do with your life, it's only supposed to benefit you and help you. So I
Sure.
said, basically, like, I'm only going to finish this if I can make it something that will benefit me
Hmm.
for like after I graduate. So
Sure.
I had a really great viola teacher who just like let me make it my own, and supported my songwriting and my wanting to do, just, I don't know, different things with the viola. So yeah, I left that and moved to Nashville.
And you recorded the first EP in Nashville.
Yeah, in a
Okay.
house, my friend's house. Yeah,
Wow. What was that experience like? Was that
it
your
was
first
so,
recording experience, or had you done that prior?
for my own stuff. Yeah, like
Wow.
I'd been playing a lot of session stuff for viola and violin, and
Hmm.
did that in LA, did that in Boston. But this was my first time, yeah, getting to record my own songs, and it was so much fun. And I just found like a really supportive community here that believed in those 5 songs and wanted to help me make this little EP in a house, and it was awesome.
Wow. And did you tour on the record, or what did you do once you released it?
I went back to
Oh,
school, so
back to UCLA.
I had to
Oh
finish my
yeah.
degree. Yeah,
Okay.
but while I was there, there was a class that they offered for undergrads that was basically like how to market yourself as an artist, and
Oh, interesting.
how to, like, do the business side. So I took that class. I went all in. Like, when I want to do something, I just go all
Go
in.
hard
And
at
so
yeah.
yeah, I like made a website, I booked a tour, and booked myself a tour. Like, yeah, I went all in.
Was that in different? I mean, obviously that would have been different than the first tour you did, because you're just the fiddle player, but now you're the front front person. Was it hard
Yeah.
to adapt to that, or?
Yeah. Yes. Like for one, fiddle players don't have to talk. Or like
Yeah,
we're just,
entertain banter or whatever, was the you'd have to
exactly.
kinda come up with that?
Yeah, I was always more of the side man, which I love playing that role and I still love it so much. Yeah, so learning how to, yeah, present yourself on stage
Mhm.
and also do the business aspect of it and take care of all of this, that side of it too. As it was just me at the time. Didn't have anybody like a manager or anything, so
Mhm.
um it was much different.
Yeah, well, and then a few years later, you put out your first full-length record,
Yeah, 3
and
years after that.
yeah, and was that I mean, was that, like, at that point, were you, like, further along in your career as far as, like, as a solo artist? Like, what was the next jump from that album?
Yeah, I had those 3 years, well, really 2 years. I moved to Nashville and I was here for about a year and a half or 2 years before I recorded that or put that EP or that album out. But
Mhm,
in that time, I had tried to start the record, didn't really know what I wanted to make.
mhm,
And so in that time, I really sat with my songs and I taught myself how to record. I like I built out demos of and I just was asking myself basically, who am I as an artist? Like what do I want to make?
mhm.
And I felt like I had never done that before and so that really took me a while, just having the intention of what am I trying to present and what is true to me um and so that I did before starting the album. But yeah, I did a lot of writing for that. I did co-writing, which is not really a thing that I did in LA at all
Uh-huh.
or anywhere before Nashville. So, and that I love that so much with the right people. It's really a special thing. So I did a little bit of that too.
Very cool. Like that, and do you still like on this most recent record? Were you able to co-write on this one, or was that just for that first album?
Yeah, I co-wrote about 50%. So both records are like half and half, half songs that I wrote by myself and half songs
Oh,
that I've
okay.
co-written. Yeah.
Very cool. And where were so I know you were really affected by the tornado, obviously, and that's
Mhm.
we'll talk about that. But was that I'm trying to think timeline wise, was that that was before COVID, right? The tornado? It was like right before.
Yeah, it was like a week or two before. Pretty crazy.
Yeah. I know Nashville's had it rough. I mean, in this
Yeah.
past year. And
Yes.
yeah, so tell me I mean that experience must have been just so terrifying, and I did read a little bit about your experience there, but I don't know if you mind talking about it at all.
Yeah. Yeah, it was really scary. I was home with my roommate and I had just like gotten into bed and was like falling asleep and we have these tornado sirens that go off periodically like as a test. And so you hear them all the time and like we'd never really had a big scare like that. And so I kind of disregarded it at first and then got a notification on my phone and was like, maybe I should check this out. And went on a Twitter. There's this awesome Nashville Twitter guy that has like just really the most I feel like he gives really good weather feedback. And so my friend had just told me about him literally the week before. And I was watching something he was recording and he just said, if you're thinking about going downstairs, stop thinking about it and go downstairs. And I was in my bed and I jumped out of bed and I ran downstairs. I knocked on my roommate's door first and she was still asleep. And she and I just ran down the stairs. And while we were running downstairs, the tornado was coming over our house. Like it was crazy. We
Oh.
ran into the bathroom downstairs, but my room, like if I wouldn't have gotten out of bed, it would have been really bad because there was wood that was flying through the wall of my
Oh
room. Like,
my gosh.
yeah, a giant piece of somebody's roof flew through. I don't know. I think it was a roof. It was like this giant piece of wood flew through the wall, was like bouncing around in my room. And so, yeah, it's such a weird experience. Like it happened so quickly. And then after it's done, it's so quiet and you're just like, oh, well, I guess it's over. And you don't really, you can't fathom what happened.
What
And
just happened?
then you start walking around and you see all the damage, and like little by little, it's actually very serious. It was very serious, and a lot goes through your head in those moments of just like gratitude of,
Mhm.
it's kind of surreal. You're like, I don't know, scary, surreal. Um, it was also like, we were up till, 5 a.m. So it was really late at night. We're all sleep deprived but, um, yeah, we made it. And my house is totally back to normal now. It took months. But a lot of my neighbors are still not back in their houses, and some of them are completely gone. So
That's
I
so
got
sad.
really, yeah.
Yeah. So you just went into your bathroom downstairs. The house was able to stand the tornado right over it. I mean, that's so insane.
Yeah. Yeah. Basically, like, I, I guess because I didn't really know much about tornadoes before this. Like, I grew up with hurricanes, but
Mm-hmm.
tornadoes are so strange. So they just hop and like are very, um, the way they move is very spontaneous.
Mm-hmm.
And so my like neighbors 2 doors down, their house is was completely destroyed, but mine, I got the like debris and
Oh,
the like things that flew into my windows and
right, right.
walls and stuff. But then it also took my whole fence. My fence just took off like a sheet in the wind. It's like
Oh my God.
in trees. It was, oh my gosh. But yeah, we're very lucky. We're
Mhm.
so lucky.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I'm glad you're okay, and I'm glad your house is back together now. Like that. I mean, I can't even imagine. That has to be so terrifying.
Yeah, I hope it never happens again.
Yeah. Wow. And where were you at as far as the recording process on the record? Was that something you were still working on when that happened? And was it like, now I got to go back and try to finish an album?
No, so we finished most of the record in January,
Oh,
luckily.
okay.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I was out of the house for about a month, and then COVID happened. So COVID happened while we were COVID lockdown happened when we were out of the house. So it was so
Oh
crazy.
my gosh.
We were staying in this woman's garage that she like turned into a spare room that had a separate entrance that somebody's friend's friend knew of. And yeah, so luckily the record was done. But we once we got back in the house, I ended up writing one more song that made it on the record. So there was one COVID song that came out like uh, I think we recorded it in May or something, like May or June or something like that.
Was it inspired by anything, all of that, or was it some song that you already had finished and you're
No, it
like, I'm
was,
just going to add it onto the album?
yeah, it was, I mean, I think it was just inspired by maybe sitting with, well, I mean, once we were still and back in the house, and then like, wow, COVID's a thing now, and what are we gonna do with ourselves? And the song was all the time. It had already come out. It came out last month or something.
Hmm.
So it's kind of a conversation with myself about reminding myself to love myself,
Hmm.
um and yeah, and talking to the parts of you that might not always be like just on. And uh yeah, it's just like it's a song about just maintaining that self-love. And so yeah, it was probably a spawn of the wild year.
Right.
Yeah,
Wow. Oh my
I
gosh.
experienced a lot of like of anxiety and and panic attacks after the tornado. But
Oh, I
I,
can't imagine, like PTSD, like up the wall, I'm sure.
yeah, but I have a great therapist, so.
That's good. That's good. That's necessary. I mean, oh my
It
goodness. That I can't imagine. I can't even imagine.
is.
With
Yeah.
the well, with the newest record, what was like, I'm sure you had big plans for it, obviously, prior to the tornado and then COVID and everything else. Like, what was the process like with this record versus the other full length album you have out?
Um, well, this record I had a team like helping me the whole time. So
Mm-hmm.
the first record I kind of built my team through. Like I was still new to the artist thing and trying to figure out this whole, being a business.
Mm-hmm.
So at that point, like when I made my first EP, my first album, all I had was a distributor. And so then by the end of that record cycle, it was doing pretty well. And I then had a manager at the end of it help me put out the full record. But this one, I had more of a team to help me. And so we were initially we pushed back the record because of COVID, but
Mm-hmm.
really it didn't make a big difference. Like we're all just, I don't know. I wasn't in a rush to put it out. And obviously touring wasn't going to be a
A
thing.
thing,
So
yeah.
yeah, but it was, this record has felt, because I have a really wonderful team of people just helping me do the things that aren't in my skill set, that I'm not, that aren't my, I don't know, just aren't my skills. I feel like a lot more relaxed about this record, and that I have support, and yeah, that I'm not alone trying to do it and
Yeah. Yeah,
just
I
cold
can't.
and yelling and
Sure, yeah. Instead of being your own manager and tour manager and distributor and social media person, like
oh
I
my
all that
god.
has to get so time consuming. Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah, time consuming, and also just like, what am I doing? So for me, I love having people to bounce ideas off of.
Mhm.
And so even just to be like, I know you're really good at this thing. Like, let me pick your brain about this. Like that's so valuable to me. Just to have that. So yeah.
Yeah, that's and I did read also that you're doing a concert, like a city, like a release show, and it's gonna benefit the people that have been affected by the tornado.
Yeah, that's going to be so the tornado is March 3rd. That will be out on March 3rd. We actually were supposed to record it tomorrow night, but the snow, I think we're going to be
Oh my.
yeah, we're gonna push it a little bit, but yeah, it's just so icy out. But yeah, I'm really excited about that. One of my friends is writing this beautiful string quartet piece for it, just kind of based around the tornado. I told her she can write whatever she wants, but
Mhm.
yeah, I haven't heard it yet or played it yet, so I'm really excited to. It's brand new to get to play that, and Becca Mankari and Kashona Armstrong are also going to be playing, and yeah, it's going to be great.
So are you playing the whole new album? Is that the thought? And then having other people like intertwined into the show, or what's the process, or like what's the vision of the show?
So this one will be more around the tornado, focusing
Okay.
more on the tornado aspect, of just like the marking the, I don't want to use the word anniversary, but the one
Right.
year of the
Right. One
tornado.
year of, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But then I actually am also doing a release show type thing, recorded thing that we recorded, and will be out on the 26th, which is the day the record comes out. And
Mhm.
that was recorded at we have this amazing museum called the Parthenon downtown. And there's this room that has this massive statue of Athena. And it's just
Wow.
this huge room that has like a 6-second delay, like a reverb, and it's insane to play in. You're like swimming in sound, like you sing and then you hear yourself way
Just the
after
like
it.
yeah, like the acoustics of the building give you that sound, or like
Yeah,
obviously it's
it's
not.
all marble.
Whoa.
Yeah, so it's like this massive space. I had played in it once before with my string group. And so this is the first time I've sung in it. And it was me and a string quartet. And so that will be out on the 26th. And it was so magical to get to like, one, we're not playing with people much these days. So
Right. You
to
get to be
be in a
around
room like
people.
that,
Yeah.
exactly. Oh my gosh. Yes. To be around people, one, and then getting to play, like everybody left that. And like I got texts the next day just being like, wow, that was so cool.
That
So
is
I'm really excited to share that.
that will be awesome. And that's in downtown Nashville, you said? That theater?
Yes.
Yeah, I want to go check that out. That sounds so amazing.
Good.
When this all opens up again, like is that a place that or a venue you could see artists play there, or is it just for it's like a museum, you said?
Yeah, so it's not usually a venue, but they probably will. Like, so we did play a live show there, and they'll probably do this series again. So they're starting a series because of those shows. So they were all kind of chamber music and
Hmm.
or like choirs, more like contemporary classical stuff.
Hmm.
And I have a group called Lachlan Strings that is a part of the tornado benefit show is attached to Lachlan Strings. But it's just a really community of string players. And so we played the first show ever at the Parthenon maybe like 2 years ago.
Uh-huh.
And we were asked to be the first of that series to start the whole thing, which was so crazy.
Hmm.
And we had like 300 people there. And we played all brand new pieces written by also composers that are affiliated with Lachlan Strings. And it was so cool. And then since that, they had 3 other shows that year, I think so one was like a choir, all local, like contemporary classical groups, but
That's so
hopefully it
cool.
will be up and running and be a kind of, maybe they'll do more of that series
Yeah, that's
when we can
awesome. I'd
go to
love to see
shows.
something like that. I mean, even if
Yeah.
yeah, that would be so cool. Just to hear that, like reverb delay and everything. That just sounds like it would be just an epic like sound.
Yes. Like I remember I didn't play in each of the performances. I remember watching one of them and just being like, yeah, you can feel the sound. Like it's so loud because of
Hmm.
the echo. So the series is called the Echo series,
Okay.
which is very fitting. But then yeah, that reverb, it really feels like you're in an ocean of sound that's
Hmm.
just consistently moving and all
That's
around you.
cool. That's
It's so
so cool.
cool.
That is so cool. I saw
Yeah.
also that you've played on like Dolly Parton records, like an Eminem record. Like how were you like in the room with them, or they send you the track and you would play to? How is that? How did that work?
So the Dolly show or the Dolly recording was for her. She did that. Remember the movie that came out called Little Dumplin'?
Oh yeah,
It was
yeah,
yeah. So that was for that, and she
yeah.
was there
Okay,
and she sang on all of that.
that's
But
cool.
she
Like you
was
were on
there.
the whole like soundtrack for the
I
record,
was on,
or
yeah, a lot of the songs, not all of the songs, but a lot of the string ones, yes.
that's cool.
And she was there, and she's so nice and small. She's just
And small.
sweet. But yeah, what a powerful woman.
Oh
Like,
my
oh my
gosh, like
gosh. And
one of the greatest.
I idolized her as a kid too. Like
Hmm.
we grew up going to Dollywood and
Oh,
oh,
I'm so excited. Once that opens up, I'm so excited to take my kids to Dollywood. Like I keep
oh,
telling my
you
wife about it. I'm like, we're going there. Like right when it opens, like I really want to see it.
yes. Oh, it's so magical. So the Eminem performance, that was a performance, and that was for
Oh,
Bonnaroo. He was
wow.
headlining Bonnaroo, and yeah, and he wanted strings. So yeah.
Got to play with him at Bonnaroo. That's massive. Wow.
But people always ask me like if we got to meet him, and no, and it was so he literally we met the band, but I don't even think he was there for the rehearsals. No, he wasn't. Like it was literally like he had his hoodie on, he walked on stage, did his thing, and then
Yeah, walked off.
left.
You guys were just
Yeah.
like the backing band kind of for him.
Yeah. We were
That's cool.
amongst the like fire and all the other.
Was it cool to play on that stage though? I mean, that must have
Yeah,
been massive. Was that
it
the
was
biggest
insane.
thing you've ever played as far as like a show?
Oh yeah, I think so. Yes, for sure. Like because it was outside, there wasn't, there wasn't like a capacity, or there was
Mhm.
probably a Bonnaroo, but it was hundreds. It was like I don't remember how exactly how many people
Yeah,
there
I
were,
think
but
it's a
it
hundred.
seems like it.
Yeah, like Coachella, I think is 100,000 or close, maybe
Okay,
90,000. So it's got to be pretty similar, if not
yeah,
bigger.
it was about that probably because you couldn't see the end of people. It was
Oh man,
crazy.
that is
Yeah, but
crazy.
because everybody from the festival came to that stage to see
Oh,
Eminem.
of course. Yeah, that's
And I would
crazy.
I would have been there in the audience too, but
But you got to be
yeah, it
on
was
stage with them. That's even cooler. You had the best seat in the house.
it was surreal. I was definitely a little tipsy. I remember being like, "This is the coolest experience," and they had like a green room, and we were like, "Oh my gosh!" I was like, "Is this for real?" Like, oh my gosh, we are just partying with Eminem.
Yeah, so I was just wondering if you had a like learning a set, was it difficult, or is this songs pretty, standard when it comes to what he was performing?
His string parts were like kind of challenging, but we had one rehearsal and everybody was like the violinists were all so pro and all the string players were super pro. And yeah, like the violinist that hired me went to Juilliard, and
Oh
like
wow.
everybody was very incredible. So
Did you
yeah.
audition to do that, or did somebody come to you and were like, I know you're an awesome interviewer, do this gig?
Yeah. I had a friend, so the girl who was booking it that went to Juilliard, her friend was a mutual friend, a composer friend here, and she recommended me for it. So I got
Rad.
lucky.
That's really cool. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And thank you so much for doing this today. I really appreciate it. I do have one
Yeah,
more
thank you for
question.
having me.
I want to know
Okay.
if you have any advice for aspiring artists.
Oh, um, yeah, just find a great community. I feel like having a community of artists around you and musicians that um like find your community, musicians that inspire you, that support you, that you can collaborate with. I feel like that is such a just like pivotal part of all of it, and it's something that literally keeps you afloat, because it is hard, but it's so rewarding to be in that community. And like when you have your successes, they have them, and when they have them, you have them, and just to watch that community grow together. So that would definitely be my advice.
Bringing it back.